Boys and girls, children of Buddhist Sunday School, parents, grandparents, and teachers of Buddhist Sunday School. May you all be well, happy, and peaceful. Now, for this lesson, we are going to have another story with very, very good moral lessons. This is a very well-known story, loved by many, many people. It is called The Selfish Giant. And the original story was written by this famous writer, Oscar Wilde. And it is taken from the book, The Happy Prince. So this version is an adaptation from the original story. So we'll go over this very simple story, but it teaches us a very great moral, right? So as usual, we will launch the PowerPoint. I will read and explain the story to you. And finally, we come to the most important last slide where we discuss the moral lessons and the Dhamma points, right? So now let us launch the PowerPoint. Now you can see the first slide, the cover slide, right? This is the Selfish Giant, a children's story with a great moral. But adults also can learn this story so that they can tell the story to other children. Now here you have some pictures showing the giant, right? All these are drawings and pictures, and then the happy children. So here you can see how people represent the giant. You know, the giant is, in Malay, we call the gergasi. Very, very huge in size. Opposite is a dwarf lah. You can see from the picture, the giant is so very, very huge, big size, maybe more than 10 feet or 12 feet tall, whereas human beings are very small compared to the giant, isn't it? So this story is about the selfish giant. Now, you know the word selfish. To be concerned only with oneself, stingy, thinking of only oneself, not willing to help other people, not willing to make other people happy, just for his own good, the things he does, that is not a good quality lah. Mementingkan diri, that's what we say lah. 自己顾自己lah. So that sort of a giant. Now let's see what will happen to a person who is selfish. All right, let's go on. This is another of the cover slide taken from the book lah. So you see this is a giant and very cute children. So you can see the children are running away here. And of course, this is just an animated image to show the happy children in the garden. And as I said just now, adapted from the original story by a very famous British author, Oscar Wilde. He has written stories for children, apart from, important novels for adults. So let us now go to the story. Long ago, in a country far away, some children used to play in a giant's garden each day after school. It was a lovely place. It's quite easy to understand, isn't it? No hard words. Of course, this is just a story, but you have important things to learn from this story. So you can imagine a very, very far away place, a country where you have giants, you have fairies, you have dwarves. So there was this giant's place, and this giant had a beautiful garden. So the children in that area would come to the garden each day after school to play in the garden, because It was very, very beautiful with flowering plants, with the pond, and you can see the maybe geese, right? And then I put in a duck. So it was very, very enjoyable to play in this garden of the giant. Let us go on. And you have a description of the garden belonging to the giant. It had soft grass and flowers. It had trees to climb, and in their branches, birds chirped happily. So what a lovely place. The grass, green grass, very soft, and there were beautiful flowering plants. There were trees for them to climb up, and there were birds in the branches, right, making that chirping sound. You know, the birds make the sound we call the chirpings of the bird. Some birds can sing also, like the nightingale, and some birds are very, very colorful, isn't it? Like the parrot and the robin, all right? I put in two animated butterflies here, also very beautiful insects. Now, what happened to the giant? Actually, the giant had been away for 7 years. He went to another place. So the children got into the garden of the giant. But one day, it was winter time already. The giant returned to his home. Now, you know, winter is one of the 4 seasons. Of course, here in Malaysia, we don't have the 4 seasons. Now, in cold countries like England or France or Sweden, you know, the northern countries, there are 4 seasons. Winter is the coldest season, as you know. And in the northern hemisphere, winter falls around maybe December, January. And there will be snow falling, very, very cold. And the mountains will be covered with snow also. Very, very cold, bleak season. Then after winter, slowly will come spring. Spring can be regarded as the best season in the sense that it is cool and you have the flowering plants growing beautifully. The flowers come out, the spring flowers. The air will be fresh. There'll be so much greenery. So spring will be a fantastic season. Then after spring would come summer. Summer is the hot season. And in certain countries, the summer can be very, very hot. Well, maybe 30 degrees Celsius. After summer comes autumn. Now, autumn going towards winter already. Right? The sun not so bright like in summer already, a bit gloomy already, and the leaves start turning brown and begin to fall. So that's autumn. And then you might have also winds blowing during the autumn season. So you have 4 seasons, then comes winter again. So it goes on in a cycle. So the giant returned one winter day. And when he found the children playing in his garden, he was very, very angry. You know what did he say? As the words tell you, when the giant saw the children in his garden, he was angry. "What are you doing here?" he yelled. The children were frightened and ran away. Because it's a giant, the children will be so small, you could actually catch them using the hands and they could be crushed to death also in the palms of the giant. Or you could use the feet to step on them also, right? So the children were very, very scared. So they started to run away. You see, this is a bird on the wall there. So that was the return of the giant. He was a selfish giant. He did not want to have people in his garden, in his place, right? He didn't want to mix with people. So he decided to build a wall. So what did he do? He built a high wall around his garden. Then you can see, right, the wall made of the big stones, so he couldn't get in. Of course, there will be a door with the gate and the lock. And then he put up a sign. What sign did he put up? The sign said, trespassers will be punished. Now, what are trespassers? To trespass means to go into the place of another person, the landowner, without permission. So you enter into his property, it is an offense. So you are considered to be trespassing, and you are a trespasser. Meaning the person who enters into the property or land of another person who owns the place. And you can be charged, right, for trespassing. And then this giant put up that sign of trespassers, people who try to get in without permission will be punished. Of course, he can punish in terrible ways. He could catch hold with his hands, isn't it? Right? Or he could use the feet to kick them and they fly like footballs. So you could see here, he was a very selfish giant. It was not kind to the children or anybody. He was living alone. Now that is his house, right? You see the house there, big house. So all around the house and the garden, but now it's winter time. So now you can see the scenery of the winter season. So the leaves had fallen already during autumn. So the trees, only the branches shown. You don't see the flowering plants, the flowers, right? So it was it's a gloomy season compared to spring. So covered with snow and very, very cold. So during winter, people probably would prefer to stay in, and they have a fireplace or maybe a hot heater where they have to switch on just as we use the aircon. So these people during winter time use the heater. Otherwise, it will be too cold, and the temperature will be below 0 degrees. For the snow to come, you need 0 degrees Celsius. So very, very cold. So they have a fireplace where they can, and then they have to wear the warm clothing. I think winter clothing. So let us see what happens next. So it was winter time, he came back, right? So after some time, and usually it'll be a few months, so it was time for spring. So the outside the wall, it was springtime. And during the spring, there were flowers and birds were singing. So beautiful scenery outside. Because it was spring already, spring had come. So the trees, beautiful, with the green leaves already. And then the plants with all types of beautiful flowers. And the birds would love the spring and they will be chirping and singing, right? Birds singing. Whereas during winter time, you find the animals will go to maybe hibernate, to go to their homes, excuse me, to go to their nest for the birds. And some creatures will go to the holes in the tree trunks. So there are various homes. So they don't come out because it's too cold or something like that. But the strange thing was, in the giant's garden, it was still winter, right? Outside already, it's springtime. But in the giant's compound, right, in his place, it was still winter. And now it couldn't turn into spring. And it was terrible, isn't it? Winter is so cold, right? The atmosphere is so gloomy. And then also you don't see the flowers, don't see the green plants, you don't hear the birds singing or chirping, and you don't see beautiful flowers all around. So how would you feel? So of course the giant felt very sad and miserable, isn't it? Right? And it went on for year after year. I don't know, maybe a couple of years. Now this is an adaptation from the original story. Right? So there are some changes. If you want to know the original story, you have to go to the book, The Happy Prince. So it said winter year after year. So the giant, you know, you also didn't understand why it was like that, you know. So I put in an animated smiley cartoon, you see, very, very sad, right? Sorrowful, winter still, outside spring already. Let's go to the next one. So it was like that. I don't know, went on for a few years, but then one morning, then he was thinking all the while, I cannot understand why spring is so late in coming. Why spring is not here. Outside, he could, actually, he is a giant, so he could overlook, he could see high up, just stand against the wall, he could see the outside already, isn't it? So outside, springtime. But in his garden and his place, winter. The snow still there, still very cold, no spring. So he said he cannot understand why this is like this. So what to do? Well, he was very miserable, in misery, unhappy. But then, maybe after a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, one morning, he got up and he looked out of his window. You could see the window open. I put in a bird, right? And then he was very happy to find the green trees and green leaves of the plants and the trees and the bushes. And then he also saw the flowers. He could see some birds also. One of it flew near him. That's what I put. So you could see the flowers, the red flowers also, and the other places also. So he was very happy. So he was wondering, why is sudden change? The spring had finally returned to his garden. So he was still wondering, why is it like that? So then he decided to, maybe outside, he went outside to see more. And then what did he find? When he went out, he saw that actually there was a group of children. And these children, they had crawled in through a little hole in the wall, right? Maybe over 1 or 2 years, some of the stones of the wall also fell apart. So there was a hole there. So there was a hole. So this group of children climbing through the hole into the garden of the giant. And when the children crawl into the garden, wow, the trees that were barren of the leaves and the flowers also that had no leaves and flowers were very happy. So the trees and the plants were very happy and glad to see the children coming into the garden. So they had the leaves coming up, right? So, and then the plants began to blossom. Blossom means to have the flowers coming out, right? Blossoms of flowers. So it covered themselves all with flowers. You could see the flowers everywhere, the yellow ones, the purplish one, the red one, and then the trees had the green leaves, and the birds also were very happy. And I put one example here, flapping the wings, the parrot, and then there were other birds humming the song. Wow, so this giant saw this, he was very, very happy. Then he realized a lesson. So here's a lesson. What did he realize? He realized that actually it was the children. That the children had come into the garden with great joy and happiness and cheer. And this caused the spring to come. This caused the leaves of the trees to grow very rapidly and the blossoms of flowers to appear in the flowering plants. And the birds also came to brighten that place of the garden. Otherwise, there's no time. Winter time, we wouldn't see any birds also, right? So, wow. the giant was very, very happy already. He realized his mistake. So he went to play with the children also. He was for once after maybe a couple of years already so lonely and so sad. So now he cried out, how selfish I have been. Now I know why spring would not come. So he realized that it was his selfishness, not allowing the children to come to enjoy the beauty of the garden, of his garden. So no spring. So he said, now I understand why spring would not come. So he knocked down the wall. Right? Then he announced, the garden now belongs to all the children. Everybody is invited to come and play in the garden. So of course the giant was very, very happy. And he lived a long life. And he lived happily ever after also. And the children also were very happy. So basically, that's the story. But if you want the original version, that probably would be longer, right? And it's a very, very simple story, but has very, very good meaning. And that's what we are going to study, the moral lessons and the Dhamma. Now here I put in, this is actually the cartoon Shrek. So some of you might have seen the cartoon series, the Shrek, interesting character, very big size. So he also dancing already. The giant also probably was dancing also with the children. The children, of course, very happy. So a very happy ending for this story called The Selfish Giant. Right? The children's story, we create moral. So now let us go to the most important slide. And you know, that is this is actually not the last slide yet. Got one more, right? This is the second last one. The second last one sums up the most important message of this story, and that is we must not be selfish. After we will expand on this, right? So this just sums up the most important message. Do not be selfish. And I put in all the various animated images of animals as well as children or persons, all very, very happy. You find the background shows spring, right? The background shows spring where the flowers are blooming beautifully. And then you have the greenery covering the mountain area or maybe the meadows, unlike winter. Winter, you see snow, all similar type of scenery. And you could hardly have any animals. Here you can see animals also like the bird. Now we come to the most important slide. There are 4 lessons, moral lessons that I will discuss with you. The moral lessons are to learn from this story. I've expanded and introduced some important Dharma points for you to understand, practice, and then realize the Dhamma. Then you find there are many good things that can come about because of your learning, understanding, and practicing of the Dhamma. So let us now look at the first one. Of course, here I just put in the animation, the cute baby dancing, right? Now, that's the first one. Selfishness brings sadness and suffering. Now, selfishness, to only think of oneself. Let's say if I'm a selfish person, then I always think of myself only. I don't want to help other people. I don't want to make other people happy. I only want to gain things for myself. In a way, it's connected with greedy. I have greed inside me, mementingkan diri, so I'm a selfish person. And you think it will give you happiness? You might get some temporary gain. I say, I get to, money or things like that. But in time to come, you find this is empty. People will shun you, avoid you, you're this very selfish selfish person, mementingkan diri, doesn't want to help other people. And then also you get a bad reputation. People will go around and say, yeah, brother Take Bin is a very selfish person. Don't mix with him, he's useless one. So how will you feel? You have sadness, isn't it? You're suffering. People, say bad things about you, and then you have no friends, good friends, and so on. So remember, selfishness is a negative quality. And of course, we see what this can lead to also, right? Selfishness. So that is the first point. Now let's look at the second one. We must practice the opposite. And the opposite is to show kindness and love. Now, the love we are talking about is not the romantic love, that a type of love. No, it is actually metta. Metta, friendliness, goodwill, benevolence, all these are very important things. To be kind, to be friendly, to be benevolent, to have goodwill, to think well of other people, to wish that people are happy and peaceful, all this is under metta, which is best translated as loving kindness. We will see after this in the next point. So if you are a kind person and you show kindness to other people, and then you have love for all the living beings, people, animals, then you find there is joy inside you, right? You find the happiest people in the world are not the selfish people. The selfish people, you find gloomy faces, and then, sour faces, and then no friends, and then you find that they feel lonely, right? Always thinking of market, making money only. So can they be happy? No. So the happiest people are the ones that are not selfish. On the contrary, they have metta, compassion, they have loving kindness, they help other people, they serve. Like some of the great monks, for example. Mother Teresa, the Catholic nun, also one example. Right? Serve, selfless service to other people. Or some of the monks have heard of the happiest monk at one stage was labeled in the Time magazine as Venerable Dr. Matthew Ricard, right? A monk, very, very joyful, happy, selfless service, right? Always helping people. But he's a monk, he doesn't have the money, but yet he's very, very happy. And the happiness grows and grows. And that generates a lot of joy and happiness. And that is generating very, very good karma. So not only will they have the happiness this life because of the practice of selfless service, helping others, but rebirth into good, happy places also when they get reborn after passing away, right? So let us look at the third one. This reminds you to practice metta or loving kindness. Metta is best translated as loving kindness. You have other translations like friendliness, goodwill, benevolence, to think well of other people, have good wishes for other people. All this is metta. I think those in Sunday school and also those in the Dhamma classes are familiar with Metta Bhavana. Metta Bhavana is the meditation on loving kindness. Sunday school, after before the Buddha Puja, you sit for a few minutes to do some Metta Bhavana, isn't it? I also do it for my Hokkien class with the uncles and aunties, 10 minutes. Because it's very, very good practice to radiate loving kindness to yourself, to your family members, to all your teachers, to your friends, and to all beings and also the animals and so on. There are many benefits. Actually, there are 11 benefits that can be gained if you practice metta. I am not giving a talk on the benefits, but among them, very important will be like, for example, you can sleep very well, very easily. You get up also peacefully. Then your face is always bright, radiant. You are very pleasant looking, unlike a person that is always looking angry. Whereas a person with metta, his face is very radiant, shining, right? That's metta. And then, as I say, easily you can go to sleep with no bad dreams and get up peacefully. And then you find other people like you. Not only people, animals and spirits, all also like you. Why? Because your heart and mind is very good, filled with metta, isn't it? And a person who practices metta can concentrate easily. So students, very important. If you want to concentrate easily, can study well, practice metta. That is a very good thing. And then also all the devas and the gods can protect you if you have metta. Of course, you must not do the bad things too. But if you are able to practice metta well, ultimately you go and do the bad things, right? So another benefit, the gods, the devas, or you can say angels, all they will protect you. And there will be many stories of these devas helping people who have metta when there is impending danger, right? So this is a very important thing. So you see the story, the giant definitely did not practice metta at first, isn't it? He was a selfish giant. And you could see what happened. No spring in his place. And he was feeling lonely, sad, sorrowful, outside nice spring. And nobody came to visit him, right? Until later on, when children crawl into the garden, then things change. Then, of course, change already. The giant changed for the better, right? So he had metta already. He was kind. He knocked down the wall, isn't it? And let all the children say that this garden now belongs to all of you. That is fantastic kindness and generosity already. So you see, a person, even though he has done something wrong, or he has certain bad parts of the character, that person can change. That person can change for the better. I told you the story of Angulimala, who murdered so many people. But in the end, when he met the Buddha, he changed and became a very, very good cultivated monk. And then also became a saint, an arahant. So nobody is, say, that condemned or beyond redemption. If we have any wrong in our character, or we have done something not wholesome, not good, bad, because you don't know, you see. The one is past already, but it doesn't matter. You can change and do good. Then the good effects will come, isn't it? All right, let's go on to the next one. Now, a greedy, stingy, and selfish person will do unwholesome actions. So you find a person that has this great greed inside, the stinginess, kedekut, tidak mau membantu, menolong orang, mementingkan diri sendiri only. Then you find he's capable, very likely he will go and do those things in order to get things for himself. You know that very greedy people may steal or may be corrupted, cheat people. This is greed, selfish. Whereas a person that is kind, not greedy, all this, probably he would have better moral conduct and character, isn't he? So if he does something that is bad because of his selfishness and his greed and stinginess, then he will commit bad karma. So if he commits the bad karma, right, the bad actions that will have the bad results, so he will have suffering. And suffering is known as dukkha. Now, let me tell you a story about a person. It's actually in the Buddhist books, the scriptures, about this person who was very greedy, stingy, and you could say selfish also. You know what will the effect? So long time ago, right? So in India, there was this very rich person. He had a few children, And then also the wife saying, but he was a very selfish person and a greedy person. He would not do any dana or help people outside. He will accumulate all the wealth. At that time, the wealth will be in terms of gold, silver, not the money. During that time, they don't have banks and all those stuff, you see. So being very selfish, so he would not help and do any dana. Right? He will just hold and get more and more things. Wow, he was very rich, you know. He had the gold pots, the gold pans, and then the kitchen materials, frying pan, all the pots and kettle, all the gold one. So he was afraid people would come to steal, right? So he got some of the gold pots, the expensive things, tanam, you know, tanam at the back of his house beneath the soil so that nobody would know lah. You see, you understand? Only he would know. Even if maybe he didn't want his children to know also. That kind of selfish person. So when as the years went by, he became older. And not long later, sickness struck him already. Everybody would be sick and you can die. And he died. And he couldn't bring anything with him, isn't it? Now, because he did not have good blessings, enough good blessings and good karma. So according to the account, he was born as a monster child in an area called the village of beggars. I've been to that place in India, right? The village of beggars, where you find, wow, so many poor people are begging for things at the beggars of the village. So he was born in that place as a monster child. What do you mean by monster child? Monster child means chachat lah. Right, the head very big and then very ugly looking, and then the hands and the legs also chachat. So the mother, all right, even the time when the mother was pregnant with him, going out to beg for food, people also don't want to give, don't want to give the mother, right? Somehow other, because of the influence, maybe lah. And then when he was born, the mother would not bring him as he grew up, 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old. The mother would not bring him out to beg for food because people are seeing the monster child would not give the mother any food. So you see, being selfish, being greedy, stingy, so the bad karma resulted in the vipaka or the results. So this child, the time maybe he was 5 or 6 or 7 years old already. Then he would go out and wander around to search for food. So one day, he wandered back to his old house. No, the time he was a rich man, I told you, remember, right? And when he went to his big house of his previous life as a rich person, wow, you know, the time, so his children had grown up already also, right? And then there was the children look at this person, although they would not know and they would not believe also that he was a father, isn't it? So they started throwing stones at him, at him, and then abusing him and so on. But the Buddha, with his psychic power, could see this. So the Buddha appeared at that place and told the people in the big house, this man was last time the owner of this house. And you who throw the stone at this so-called monster chala, right? He's a father, You're throwing the stones at your father, You say, yeah, how can it be? My father died already, died already. They also maybe grown up already, right? So the Buddha said, okay, you allow him to go into your house. So since the Buddha so highly respected, right? So they allow him to go to the house. So you know what the monster child did? He went to the back of his house and started digging at the ground, Remember last time I told you he had hidden the very expensive gold pots and some other precious golden pots and jewelry also maybe lah. He there and he dug the things, everything came out, all those riches. Then only the people in the house believed that he was that man who was the selfish person, right? Stingy person, and reborn as the monster child. So it's a very, very good story. that tells us if we are selfish, stingy, and greedy, then you find this is not a good thing. You will not help people, so you don't have good blessings, everything. All your good fortune, all use up, your luck will use up already. So you reborn into an unfortunate state. He was still born a human being. Maybe he had done some good, so he took care of the children and the wife also lah. But he was so very selfish and stingy. So this sort of thing will result in dukkha, which is suffering, right? So since this story is short, so I have time to tell you a story. And that story is from the Buddhist books. And it teaches us very good Dhamma lessons. So today the lesson is shorter. I hope that you all like the story, simple story. Most important is you have learned the moral lessons and the Dhamma. So before we say sadhu 3 times, so I would like to thank all the children, right? The little ones particularly, even maybe standard 1, standard 2, standard 3, or maybe standard 4, 5, 6. And also the parents and grandparents who follow this story, this presentation, and listen to the story of the monster child. And also the teachers of Buddhist Sunday School. I would like to thank all of you for the great patience, your effort in listening to this presentation for this period of time. So sadhu to all of you. So may you all be well, happy, and peaceful. So let's say sadhu 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May you all be well and peaceful. Do take care of yourselves.